highest level of European football is Borussia Monchengladbach against Manchester City. And the referee awards a penalty. It's Hart, and it's saved by Hart. First time ball, pulled back, and Borussia Mönchengladbach go ahead. And it's cleared off the line. City are back on terms. Referee points to the spot. We have a penalty for Manchester City. He steps up and scores. And Manchester City battle to go through to the next round in pole position. Beautiful back heel by David Silva, who goes for goal. This is to Sterling. City are in front. Limited low and finished up the near post. He's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He rounds him and completes his hat-trick.
My friends, good evening, and the Champions League is back. These really are the nights that we live for. An away trip under the lights awaits, with the prospect of a spot in the last 8 of the Champions League on offer. And we have a bit of history with tonight's opponents, Borussia Mönchengladbach, playing them in the Champions League 4 times in the last 5 years. Of course, we'll be hoping to get a win in this away leg. So great to be with you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us on We're Not Really Here. My name is Kel Spellman, and joining us to get into the game tonight, we have got a great forward line of none other than Mr. Paul Dickov and Kevin Horlock. Gentlemen, so great to be with you. Kev, what have you made of City's winning streak so far? It's been quite the thing to enjoy, hasn't it?
It's been incredible. Tonight, Champions League, a nice little break from that tedious repetitiveness of winning Premier League games. So I'm looking forward to tonight, something a little bit different away from the Premier League, so it's a big night.
Big night indeed. And Paul, I mean, we've spoke a bit around the Champions League. Does it feel slightly different this time round coming into it? That we seem to be, I don't know, a little bit more mature or a little bit more ready maybe to go that bit further this year?
Yeah, and I think a little bit more determined after what's happened previous years, especially last year, the disappointment. You know, we all know we're massive favourites in the Lyon game, the disappointment coming off the back of that, but they won't make that same mistake again. Mm-hmm. You know, playing a team tonight that's very youthful, very good going forward, but the form City are in at the minute is fantastic. And the one thing they'll probably want to do is put the game to bed the tie to bed as early as they can.
Yeah, winning those away goals, of course, are still going to be just as important. Let's bring you then our 11 that we're taking on Borussia Mönchengladbach tonight, of course, as chosen by Pep Guardiola. Your first 11 looks like this tonight. A few changes from that 1-0 win, against Arsenal. Ederson in net. We have a back four consisting of Kyle Walker, João Cancelo and Diaz, partners Aymeric Laporte. John Stones dropped to the bench along with Zinchenko. A middle three of Rodri, Gundogan and Bernardo. Of course, Fernandinho, after that superstar performance, back on the bench. And Gabriel Jesus is brought into the fold alongside Raheem Sterling and Phil Foden, who is also back in that starting 11. And you'll spy on the bench there, Kevin De Bruyne, after those 60 minutes, is there ready to come on if we need him. And also joining him on the bench, we've got Zach Stefan, Scott Carson, John Stones, Sergio Aguero, Zinchenko, Torres, Benjamin Mendy, Fernandinho, Mahrez, Garcia and Tommy Doyle. Let's begin, I guess, maybe at the back, Kevin. We've seen there, Kyle Walker's been brought in. Zinchenko kind of moved to the bench after a great run of games and performances. What do you think the thinking is there with bringing in Walker in?
I think it's just a little bit of rotation. I think Paul's just highlighted that they are quite good going forward. Obviously, Kyle brings in a lot of pace. Cancelo gives you that option of when you are being offensive to going into midfield areas to making overload. So it's a strong back four. The two centre-half pairing is really strong, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
He seems to have nailed almost that we don't have our 2 best centre-halves now. We almost have the 3 best centre-halves, Paul. And I've got to say personally, it's great to see Laporte now kind of back getting a run of games and partnering Diaz.
It is, because he's a world-class defender. You know, it's not so long ago we're talking about how much he was missed last year, and I think that's got the biggest compliment you've got to pay John Stones and Ruben Diaz, is that when he's not been there, he's not been missed.
Yeah.
But recently, when he's come in, he's put in top-class performances, and it's great to see Pep rotating them, and he can rest 1 or 2 of them. The last season, I think we had 1 centre-half. You know, Fernandinho was dropping in there. But to have the options now is fantastic, and we've also seen him play with the 3 of them at times as well. So the options are unbelievable.
They really, really are. And we say options. I mean, we've been opting for the false nine. We've opted to go for Gabriel Jesus, who can obviously play a false nine, but is a striker. So do you think he's kind of there to try and maybe just change our way of play against Monchengladbach from what we've seen the last few weeks, Kev?
Yeah, I think he's probably just been put in there to be our focal point up front, central. Obviously, we know what talent we've got in and around that, the rotation and players that will get up alongside him in Sterling and Foden. Bernardo, the list goes on. Gundo, where do you end with it? So it's just giving that vocal point of that centre forward that he's going to be in places to score when the opportunities arise.
Another name that we were so happy to see on the team sheet at the weekend, he is on the bench, Kevin De Bruyne, but one of our favourites, Paul, Phil Foden, brought in. Another big night for him.
Yeah, but buzzing for that. And, you know, whenever he's played, whether he started or come on, he always has an impact in the game. Mm-hmm. He's just so positive. He's got loads of energy. And I think going back to what Kev said there, with Gabriel Jesus playing it, and Phil and Bernardo being the team that they're going to go and press them high.
Yes.
You know, it's something Gabby loves doing. Phil's got the energy to do it. Bernardo, and probably nice after his injury to give Kevin a rest. And sounds crazy to say it, but that middle three of Rodri, Gundo and Bernardo's probably been our best three.
Yeah.
In this run. Obviously Kevin's been out. A performance from them three that we've had before tonight will be fantastic.
Kev, wanted to ask you, you touched upon it, one of the abilities that João Cancelo has about coming into the middle. We've kind of not spoke about it enough, I think, on this show, but how difficult is it, to see what João Cancelo is doing? He's been playing almost as a centre midfielder.
It's scary. I'll see highlights of the game and it sort of showed areas he had touches in the game. How do you deal with it as opposition? It's so unpredictable. You don't know where he's going to turn up. It gives overloads. Obviously, we all know that Manchester City do have a lot of possession. So he has got licence to go in there and cause havoc. And we've seen him getting shots off, scoring goals. It's unbelievable. It must be an absolute nightmare as opposition to try and deal with it and work it out.
Yeah, how do you? Do you know what I mean? Where do you begin?
It must be impossible. The amount of times as a fullback, whether he's left or right, that he ends up in the opposition box, either getting a cross in or, like Kev says, getting a shot off. And you can set your team up, and look, if he's playing in midfield, you can set up to play against 3 midfielders or 4 midfielders, but you don't expect a fullback to end up tucking into that midfield or as a defence. You don't expect a fullback to be turning up in the 18-yard box and having shots on target.
We're not talking about him just staying sort of in the area where, as the left back would normally be. He's sometimes seen on the opposite side of the football pitch. It's incredible to watch, but obviously it's something that Pep works on. He's happy for players to go and express themselves. They've all obviously got undoubted ability to keep the football, so we don't see a lot of turnovers where he's not going to get time to get back in position.
Yeah, I think there's a great balance with Laporte in the team as well, because when he does vacate Cancelo that left back area, he can shuffle across and Rodri drops back in.
Yes.
So we've still got that little comfort blanket there if teams are trying to hit us in the counter.
I read a great interview with Rodri, actually, and he talks about how Cancelo coming into the middle has helped him kind of actually bring a bit more peace and calm to when we do have to deal with a quick transition. It must be quite important as a centre midfielder to have a little partner, if he maybe isn't literally in that 2 with you, but to know that someone's going to come in and help you.
Yeah, it just gives you that reassurance. You're not left on your own. As a midfielder, out of possession, you're always thinking, what if this breaks down? Should I be there? When you've got someone, that's in and around you, you can have a gamble up a little bit more, which is why I think you see Manchester City winning the ball high up the pitch a lot more than most teams.
And do we think all these things we're talking about, and it's kind of what I asked you at the start, Paul, it does feel now this is the team that is ready, don't want to chance it, but to take it to the next level now? We've ironed out those mistakes. We've got a bench that is, beggar's belief. It just feels like it's kind of there.
It is, and I've been battered for it in the past previous seasons as well. But I've said it last season, said it season before, and I'll say it again now that it's massive to keep everybody fit and to be able to rotate players, give players a rest. Put them in for 2 or 3 games, take them back out again, let them get a bit of form, especially when you get into the latter stages of the Champions League. That I genuinely believe, it's my opinion, people might agree, might not, but as a squad, not just the first 11, I've said it time and time again, I believe we have got the best squad in Europe and the best squad equipped to win the Champions League if we can keep people fit.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Now, one thing we have to mention here, of course, is just to where we're at, where we're not actually over in Germany. The game is being played in Budapest. How much of an effect on the game do you think that has? Is it more of a positive for City? Borussia Monchengladbach going to be gutted they're not at their home ground, or given that there's no fans, is it a bit of a redundant point?
I think from their point of view, they'd have loved to have been at home with a full crowd. Obviously, it would have given them a much better chance of winning the game of football. I think neutral stadium, I think it benefits Manchester City. I think they could go anywhere in the world and play any team in the world and win a game of football. So, I think they'll be looking at it as a little bit of a disappointment that they're not at home and with the crowd in.
Those away goals, though, and we've kind of seen them, they are vitally important, I think, and that will be top on the agenda, I guess, for the team tonight.
Yeah,
Paul.
well, and I don't think we'll see a different style of play from what we've been doing recently. You know, whether we've played at home or away in the Premier League, we've set about it in the exact same way, with different personnel. But Monchengladbach, I've touched on it before, they're very good going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I question them defensively, and the way we are playing, the way we're attacking going forward. Hopefully we can get a few away goals.
We can indeed. Well, speaking of Monchengladbach, let's have a quick look at the team that we're going to be facing tonight over in Budapest. I'm going to do my best with the pronunciations, and I'll apologise first and foremost if I do get some wrong, but it's looking like this. We have Sommer in net. At the back there, we can have Kramer, Zakaria, Stindl, Player, Lehner, Hoffman, and then up towards the front end of the pitch we've got Ben Sabani, Ginter, Alvido and Nevhaus. Testing me there, so I do apologise again. You mentioned it there, Paul. Monchengladbach very good going forward and a concern, maybe a little bit vulnerable defensively.
Yeah, they have, and they've scored lots of goals in the Bundesliga, scored lots of goals in the group stages. But you look at our team, it doesn't matter if they're good defensively or not. The way we are going forward, we could cause envy problems, but they've struggled to keep clean sheets of recent. I know Kev's really clued up on the Monchengladbach players.
What do you make of the Monchengladbach team?
They are a threat going forward. No Thuram, I notice, who scored a couple of goals against Real Madrid, so he will be a big miss for them. But Player that you mentioned, hat-trick against Donetsk, so he's one to look out for. And Stindl, the captain you've already mentioned. I think last 14 games played in all competition, they've won 6, drawn 5 and lost 3. So they don't lose a massive amount of games. So it is going to be difficult for them tonight, but once I think Manchester City do hopefully break the deadlock, it could be a game that they go on and win quite comfortably.
All right, Stato.
I tell you what.
You've got to do your own work, haven't you?
I think a few of the other guests, if they're watching, not you, Paul, but could do well to take a leaf out of your book, actually, Kev. Thank you.
I'm absolutely buzzing that I actually remembered all that.
You've done so well there. But I guess, there is that thing with Europe this is maybe where now we're going to see our defence tested a little bit more, because anyone can seem to score and get a few goals in Europe. You mentioned a few of those key players there. How adapted do you think they will be to our press? As Paul mentioned, we're going to be going for those high energy players.
It's that question again, isn't it? And we have it often. How are they going to approach the game? Do you sit off and let Manchester City have the ball, because generally they're going to have the ball anyway, and then try and stay in the tie as long as possible? Or do you go out and have a right go and try and play to your strengths going forward? It's a difficult one to call, because we've seen in the past that Manchester City teams can dismantle you with whatever game plan you come up with. So it'd be interesting to see which way they go tonight.
I think for their point of view, their manager's probably saying just make sure you stay in the game, that you're in the game for the second leg. If that means I'm scoring a goal and nicking it by one, or managing to get a draw, or losing by the odd goal, that their main aim, I would think, the way Manchester City are playing at the minute is to make sure that they're still in the tie by the time they come back to the Etihad.
Yeah. I've got another stat for you as well. I think they've won 4 of their last 9 games in Europe. But only 5 of the last 19. So they have improved. They have improved in Europe. So we'll see which way this one goes.
And we were obviously, we mentioned at the start of the show, but we're no unknown opponent to Monchengladbach. Played them that few times. It does feel like a slightly different prospect, but as you say, on our day, we can go away and we can absolutely beat anyone. My question is, though, for you guys, you've both operated in management. What would be your approach out of interest to try and deal with that City? I mean, it's if you had a full, maybe the players and personnel to match, but I'd just be interested to know, because we've seen all the managers try.
Personally, from my point of view, I'd probably try and sneak another couple of players on and hope the ref don't count them. I don't know. It's so difficult, isn't it? If you go along the route of sitting off and trying to be compact, it's difficult, because Manchester City move the ball that well from left to right, and you ultimately get tired. That's when the mistakes, and that's all it takes. So I don't know.
I don't know either, but I think you would have to be so careful about the message you're giving your players, because as a manager, at the back of your head, you'll know how good they are, and how they can destroy you. So you want to let the players know that defensively they've got to be right. but without scaring them
Yeah.
at
I
the
think
same
the
time
players
as well.
know as well, won't they, themselves? That, look, for me, it's a dangerous game for Manchester City because this is sort of a free hit for them because no one to give them a chance of winning the game.
Yeah.
So the pressure's off in many respects.
And I guess actually though, and it was kind of a little bit similar to that Lyon game that we watched together, Paul, in that it kind of felt that same thing going. No one really gave them a chance, and look what happened. But guess having a memory like that in the back of your head, it kind of keeps you true moving forward.
It does, and I think that our defensive record, more than anything else, will give the players going out there tonight and the comfort, and the time we played Lyon, and a lot of times last season defensively we looked as if we were always going to concede.
Yeah.
Even when we were dominating games or 1-0 up and looking as if we were going to go and score 3 or 4, you always felt that the other teams were going to get a chance, where it's a completely different feeling about that now.
Yeah, they can't even get a chance in. Gents, thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a slight pause from proceedings here, and we're not really here, because we can now bring you our manager, Pep Guardiola. Here he is speaking ahead of our game against Borussia Monchengladbach.
No, not even the Premier League, not even in FA Cups. So every game is new one. What you have done in the past is the past. So every time is a new challenge. It doesn't matter competition. Many. They can change the shape, the way they play. They make a good build-up with the summer, and they contact with link with the strikers. And after, when they set the ball, they have a good movements in behind, like in German style, especially Hoffmann. So yeah, Champions League, last 16 quarterfinals, 80 finals. Sorry. So all the teams are good. Yeah, the experience is good. Being there many times help you, of course. But for the opponent as well. So I'm not a big fan of this. Every time is a new challenge, a new game, and you have to do it as good as possible. And try is a football game. Today is a football game, like it was 3 days ago, like it will be 3 days later. And try to do what you have to do, what you have done. And if the opponent is better, we accept it. And in 3 weeks we will see them in Manchester and try to play to win the game. That is only want to do. Yeah, it's a big decision when we win. About the rotations, always when we win is a big selection. Everybody's involved. And when you lose, why change too much? Why rotate too much? You have to make the team back four. So always I believe when this kind of incredible amount of games, like we played just 3 days at travel, we could not train in much, and after in 3 days at 12:30 you have a new one. It's an incredible challenge, and everyone has to be involved. So next game against Southampton, we're going to change 5 or 6 or 7 new players. So it's the only way to sustain and every team involved, every player involved. In the same case, when everyone win, the players are happy because everybody plays, but when we don't win, they are upset because they want to play every game. So always the same discuss.
Quite an interesting chat there with Pep Guardiola ahead of our Champions League last 16 tie tonight. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. There is always that worry then, isn't there, Paul? We're saying now, like so far, or given the winning streak, the rotation is working, but there is a pressure in going, well, if you change something and suddenly lose, you go, well, why did you try and change something that didn't need to be changed?
Yeah, because people are always wanting to bring you back down to earth again.
Yeah, especially City.
And especially when you've got a squad like Manchester City. But these, look, Pep knows, he doesn't need us to tell him, these players are so well drilled that Kyle coming in tonight after not playing at the weekend will know exactly his job, will know exactly the tactics. Same as Phil, who's been playing recently, get taken out at the weekend, back in there. And they're intelligent players as well, they know how to manage themselves when they're not playing. And when they are playing, they make sure they're up for it because they're all winners. But I don't think that pointing the finger at rotation when you've lost a game after winning 18 in a row should be anything to worry about.
No, not at all.
You have to do it, don't you? I think Sean Goater mentioned on the last show I was on with him, I think over the course of the season, when you're playing on all 4 fronts, you end up, there's 60-odd games.
Yeah.
You can't expect not to rotate. You have to, and even with the rotation, I think most players end up playing 35 to 38 games, which is still a full season back when we played.
And it's keeping them as fresh and as hungry as they can. So we'll guarantee that KDB, Sergio Aguero, Fernandinho, Riyad Mahrez, all the players that are on the bench tonight, they'll be desperate to get on.
Yeah.
The big problem for Pep comes, hopefully we see it when Manchester City get to the Champions League final. That's the problem, picking the team for that one.
I know, do not envy the position he'll be in there for that one. But, you know, there was a season a couple of seasons ago, I don't remember if you remember, I think it was around the back end of Pellegrini, where we weren't the most defensively sound, and there was a whole thing about you're not playing two defensive centre-half partners, you know, week in and week out. You're chopping and changing the fullbacks. Pep's taken that idea of a thing and thrown it out the window. So how much of that is Pep, and how much of it is it actually the quality and the mentality of the players?
I think it's both go hand in hand. You know, and I know Pep's saying there that they're not training a lot, but the players will know exactly. The players that aren't playing, that are coming in tonight or coming in at the weekend or next week, they'll know exactly what their jobs are. They're so well drilled. You know, the information they get from Pep and his staff is unbelievable. We would struggle with our little brains, I think, to take all that in. But I can't. It's not a problem at all. It's a good thing. You know.
I think these players recognise that. Well, they want to be successful. They want to keep fighting on all four fronts. They want all the trophies on offer. To do that, you need to do it as a squad, and I think they realise that.
And I guess that's when you talk about getting teams or players to buy into your philosophy as a club or as a manager. That's kind of what we're talking about then, is it, Kev? Yeah,
100%. No, for this squad to hopefully go on to win all four trophies on offer. You need everybody. You need everybody, even the younger lads in the squad that make the odd appearance in the cup games that we've seen. You need everybody to be that successful.
Final quick word, only because I'm sure lots of people will be asking on Twitter. Aguero, obviously we were hoping to see him against Arsenal, didn't. Do you think there's a chance maybe, Paul, if we need to, you know, maybe get that away goal, he's a nice one to bring on?
He is, and he's got a good record against them as well. You know, I think we're all desperate. I think the three of us in here and the people watching the game and back home all want to see Sergio back in the pitch. But, you know, like we said at the weekend, it's probably more important for the remainder of the season and the run-in, where hopefully we've got Carabao Cup final coming up, going further in the FA Cup, keep pushing away at the top of the Premier League, and obviously the Champions League going into the later stages. You know, you want a Sergio Aguero fit and firing for that.
We do indeed. Maybe we'll see him tonight. You can see our lads are just coming out there to warm up over in Budapest. All right, we enjoy doing this. We had a great question at the show at the weekend for the Arsenal game. We've got another great one for you guys at home to get involved with, and we're going to start it here in the We're Not Really Here studio. Of course, we've had some great German players across the years here at Manchester City, but we would love to know who for you has been our best. Who has been our best German player for Manchester City? We've got quite a few to choose from. Of course, we've got one that I'll throw into the mix right now, has been influential of late, Ilkay Gundogan. We could also maybe throw in, we've got Uwe Roslo, we've got Bert Trautmann, Leroy Sané. Just wondering, gents, out of those I've mentioned there, I might just claim Gundogan for ease. Are there any that jump out at you who you think, wow, they were a player?
Yeah, for me, I'd go with the one you mentioned that I played with, Uwe Rosler, scored goals. City fans really liked him, and rightly so. But you mentioned Bert Trautmann, by the way, playing on with a broken neck. I mean, our football's changed, huh?
That is unreal.
Running around with twisted socks these days, rubbing his neck. Oh, my neck's a little
with
bit
the screams as well. I think we can see it there. That was it. Was it?
Look at this.
Absolutely. Have you watched the documentary?
Yeah, it is.
The film on it. It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
The whole story behind it, and then obviously I'm just trying to play football at any team when he came over to playing the cup final and winning it with a broken neck. It's just
incredible.
Yeah. Paul's so right, actually. For anyone who maybe hasn't digged deep into the Bert Trautmann story, there's the documentary also done a film about it. It is well worth your time. It is it's mind-blowing in a way. And in a way, it kind of epitomises for me what it is to be a Manchester City player and fan in a way. He kind of was a visual representation of the club, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was, and just not just an icon, but a hero. Not just then, but still now.
Yeah. Uwe Rosler, let's go back to that focus. What was he like to play with, Kev?
Yeah, look, he worked so hard, run the channels, scored lots of goals. Here we go now, look. Another goal at main mode. Got to miss that place. But he was just a real nice character as well, sometimes lost in translation. Old German people can come across quite harsh with the accent a little bit, but he was a great lad and opened my eyes to it. It was early days for me at Manchester City, and he wasn't about long when I was there, but he scored some really good goals.
Yeah, great guy. Still a good friend of mine now. Always makes me laugh about the first time I properly met Uwe when I made my debut. I came on as sub at half-time against Stoke, and I signed on the Friday, and he didn't really speak to me at all. Obviously, I thought he'd seen another striker coming in.
Yeah.
Came on at half-time, got in the coach going back to Main Road, and he came and sat next to me. And he was like, me and you, he said, we play well together. He says, because you like to run. He said, and I like to score. He said, so you run the channels and I stay in the box and I score the goals.
That's made in heaven.
And I still remind him of that now. But great guy.
And he's much loved by all the fans here. He's been saying some really lovely stuff around the club as well this week, if you want to check those comments out. Maybe we'll come to Gundogan. Leroy Sané. I mean, I think he was back on the score sheet for Bayern Munich last night. I think he also got an assist. I mean, he was a hell of a player, Kev, wasn't he?
Yeah, and still quite young. He's a top player, but obviously wanting to go back home and play back there, which is a loss for Manchester City, but looking at that, it's paved the way or space for the likes of Phil Foden. So silver lining and all that. But he was a top player. Let's have it right. On his day, he was unplayable.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's interesting because me and my dad, who I'm always mentioning, but we were speaking about this, going, it did seem to actually, in a way, as gutted as you are to lose a player of Leroy Sané's quality, just opened up the space for Phil Foden to come in and flourish.
It doesn't, and it's amazing how things work like that. And a slightly different point, I was watching the Chelsea game last night, and my boys actually said about Callum Hudson-Odoi, because he was tipped to go to Bayern before his injury, that if he hadn't have picked up his injury, would we still have Leroy Sané?
That's a great point. I hadn't even, probably would have done, actually, if you think about it. Yeah. You've got to kind of say, though, off that, we definitely maybe are happier for it now. We're seeing Phil Foden doing his thing. Final one that we're going to throw in for you guys to be choosing from is Ilkay Gundogan. Actually, I think the most capped player in the Champions League under Pep Guardiola. He seems to be a go-to. Kev, I mean, what have you made of Gundogan? He's always been great, but just seems to have gone to a whole different...
He's took it to a new level. Mr. Whippy. There you go. Whipped it bottom corner. He's been sensational, hasn't he? And again, when you talk about the squad and people hit top form at different times, but when you've got this many good players, you've got players like Gundo hitting top form. He's been sensational. The goals he scored, the positions he picks up in the little pockets, he's a real threat going forward.
It's interesting, speaking of Gundogan, and how important will it be for the team to have someone who is tried and tested in Europe? Because, of course, he's been to the Champions League final with Dortmund. We've not got too many players like that. That probably is worth its weight in gold, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and what you said before about him having played more games in the Champions League under Pep than anybody else tells a story. That Pep really trusts him in the big games, and remember the Barcelona game out here a few years ago, where it was by far the best player on the pitch.
Yeah,
and people talk about him really coming to the fore recently. He's been such an important player to us when he's been fit over the last couple of seasons, and he's added goals to games. And probably the biggest compliment is we're not sitting here talking and asking questions why Kevin De Bruyne isn't starting.
Yeah,
he's been that good recently.
If you wanted to add, were we going to add something there, Kev?
No, I'm just listening to Dickov. I was like that, in awe of what you're saying then.
Listen, if you please come get involved in that vote. So if you go on over, you'll probably see it pop up now. You can cast your vote. You can also drop us a tweet as well. Use the hashtag WNRH. Let us know who's your favourite and best player out of those four there. Maybe give us a little sentence as well, and we'll work through them at half-time and full-time. We really love you getting involved, so please come and do that. Now, gents, do you want to get involved in a little game? I think it went down rather well, the Arsenal game, the Gundo or Gunners.
That went down all right, although I lost. A funny feeling old Stato here's been rushing up, though.
No.
So, from what I've heard before, so I'm not feeling too confident myself.
I know what the game's called, obviously.
Yeah.
Manchester, Monchengladbach.
Yeah.
So I did look up a little bit, and I know the population of Monchengladbach. That's it. So if you don't come up, then I'm struggling.
Okay,
anyway,
well, I've got the questions here. As I get the questions, take a look at our high-valued production end, Sting. Monchengladbach, you're Manchester! There we are, thanks as well. I mean, we were pointing out the arrows as well. No expense spared here on We're Not Really Here, so very simple. Monchengladbach or Manchester, I've got a question. You have to tell me which one it is. Are we ready? Okay, which ground has the largest capacity? Now, of course, we originally went Borussia Park, but we've had to change that to Puskás, the Puskás Arena where we are tonight in Budapest. So, is it the Puskás Arena or is it the Etihad?
Oh, have we got to buzz in, or are we going to...
No, we take answers from you both.
I'll let Dickie go first this one.
I'll go the Puskás Arena.
Puskás Arena.
I'm gonna play steady. I'm gonna go the same.
You're
just
gonna
to
go
keep in the game.
There you go. Well, you'd be right to go the same because it is. They are 62,215 for the Puskás Arena. Etihad is 55,000. If we'd gone with Borussia Park, This is just for us. Would you say higher or lower Borussia Park than the Etihad?
I would have said lower.
Lower?
I would have gone the same.
You would be right, but only by 1,000, 54,022. All right, next up, which side has won the most domestic league titles? Borussia Monchengladbach or Manchester City? It's just a good question, this.
Domestic titles, is that one in the league or trophies?
It won the most domestic league titles. Nice though, Paul. I like it. Making sure we're key on the details. You thinking, Kev? Paul, we're going to go over to you for this one first.
I'm going to go Borussia.
You going Mönchengladbach? Paul?
I'm going to go Manchester City.
Okay, interesting. This will be the first split of the game so far. Paul takes the point. 6 titles
I was going to
for
say
City.
Manchester as well. Can I have half a point?
I'm sorry, no, you're going to you never know, there actually might be a question on population.
Good.
Okay, question 3. Which is older, Manchester Cathedral or the Mönchengladbach Basilica?
The Basilica.
You're saying the Basilica.
I'm sure I read
straight
that.
in there. What are you thinking, Paul?
He's got me thinking now. He was so confident with that. He was that confident, I'm going to go Manchester Cathedral.
I like it. And that keeps it interesting because you take the point there, Kevin.
That was one I've read up on.
You did, 11th century, the Basilica. The Manchester Cathedral was 14th.
Yeah.
For those of you who wanted to. You see, we're educational here and we're not
I
really.
can't believe Dickie didn't know that answer. It's so
Okay, points are all level. Okay, question number 4. Battle of the Berts. Who played more games for their respective clubs? Was it Borussia Mönchengladbach legend Bertie Vogts or City stopper Bert Trautmann? Who played more games for their clubs?
Is that Bertie Vogts?
That's the... Yeah. Well, given my pronunciations there, I dread to think what I did for that whole first 11 there.
He was my Scotland manager.
Oh, he was?
He was.
Flipping
So you know the this ain't fair. This ain't fair. He knows him.
Well, unless he's gone to him. How many caps did
Yeah,
you
he
have
would have
for
asked him, wouldn't he?
I didn't like him. No.
What are we thinking then? Is it Paul's ex-manager Bertie Vogts or Bert Trautmann?
I'll go Bertie Vogts.
Bertie Vogts.
I was going to go Bertie Vogts, but
Okay, no, you can. I mean, if you want, you don't have to.
is that right? Yeah. yeah, I'll go. Dickie said, yeah, it is right.
You'd be both incorrect. It's Bert Trautmann. So Bert Trautmann 545 and Bertie Vogts 419. So quite a big thing. All right, all to play for here. Question 5. The score currently stands at 2-2. Can you tell me what is the popular? No, it is which country, Germany or England, drinks more beer on average per person? Great final question to decide.
I reckon since lockdown, it must be.
Well, this is just in general. We're not specific.
You're just
lockdown.
talking about yourself.
Yeah, I'm just talking about myself.
I'm
Yeah,
just talking
sorry.
about everyone here.
Recycling is just all the way down there.
So many people watching it going like, oh, I'm glad it's not just me. Yeah.
That's a tough one because they've got the beer festivals. Go on, I'll let you go first. Beer festivals.
I'm going to
How
go
big's them
Germany.
beers?
You're going to go Germany. Kev,
Big drinkers
How
of
many more
Germans.
questions left, Kel?
This is the decider. It's 2-2.
We got to have a winner then, haven't we?
Well, yeah.
I'll go England.
You're going to go England.
Yeah.
Kev, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll
because
bet.
we would have been spent force, actually. So I can reveal that Paul would be correct with Germany. There we go, 3-2. Good game.
Ask me about beer.
Because the UK on average is 21st worldwide, on average 72.9 units a year per person. But Germany, 3rd worldwide, with 101 units a year per person in Germany.
101 units?
Yeah.
In a year?
Well, on average per person.
We used to do that after the game.
Yeah, well, how many people have you been asking here for it?
We did more than that at the end of season 2.
You'll have to let us know how you got on with that quiz. And I got to say, Mönchengladbach or Manchester, here for it. Thanks for the no expense spared their production value. They're very happy in the gallery, I must say. All right, guys, we're going to dig into the vault very shortly. But first, wanted to talk around the Arsenal game, of course. Paul, we watched it together at the weekend. It felt like a slightly different City performance, didn't it? And one that we're not too used to have seen, especially over this winning streak, Kev.
Yeah, look, today we all want to see Manchester City teams just blow teams away. It doesn't always happen. It was nip and tuck towards the end, but they showed that character, that steeliness to see it out, which in years gone past wasn't the case.
I think that's kind of what wanted me to ask you that question, Paul, that they're the type of performances that we are going to need probably in Europe, aren't they?
Yeah, especially in the latter stages as well. And Arsenal, off the back of a couple of decent results, I said after the game that usually when you're watching Man City and it's 1-0 up and it gets to the last few minutes, you're a little bit nervous and you're thinking, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But I was completely confident. We just looked so comfortable. We didn't get out second, third gear because we didn't have to. You know, we're in control of the game, professional performance, and you know, at times when we do score and then we get 2, we always look for getting 3, 4, 5, but they were so confident of getting the 3 points, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We all want to see them scoring loads of goals and not conceding, but the 3 points were massive.
And also, I don't know if there would seem to be a lot of talk around, you know, master versus apprentices, there always is, but it did feel quite like a tactical game from both managers, kind of a bit like the Leeds game with Bielsa, or Pep did something and Arteta did something. Probably to the untrained eye, we didn't see what was going on, but there probably was a lot going on there, do you reckon, Kev?
Yeah, it would have been like a chess game. Obviously, Arteta knows how Pep works, obviously knows what he would have been thinking, knows what he would have been telling the players, but then he might have been second-guessing himself. Will he change it because it's me and I know? It would have been a chess game.
Yeah.
But it's one that Pep won, so we're all happy.
We're all very happy. There was an interesting quote, I don't know if either of you saw this, from Pep in his post-match interview, where he said that he learnt something from Arteta, that he did something to try and stop our build-up play, which he's going to take and use in his own games further forward. I mean, it's only a tiny thing, but it says a lot about Arteta, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and there was a spell in the first half that we spoke about at half-time where Arsenal actually got on top because they ended up overloading the midfield a little bit, which seems unthinkable the way we've been playing. But then you talk about the master and the apprentice. The master comes out second half and fixes that straight away.
I like the way Pep come out and said, because obviously Arteta's always going to be looked at as Pep's apprentice because he'd obviously come here and worked under him. But Pep come out and said, look, Arteta knows his stuff. He's his own man. He knows what he's doing, and that was nice to see because Arteta might have trouble losing that tag.
Yeah, being in his shadow.
Yeah, he's
almost,
always going to be fought along them lines. So that was, I thought, really nice of Pep to come out and say that.
I guess was there always maybe you can have a little bit of that as a player. You know, maybe if you kind of, I don't know, so the next person who came in at right back, Walker, was always going to be compared to Zabaleta. I guess that can kind of, I guess this can be a bit annoying going, I'm my own player and don't stop comparing me. I guess you just have to let your game do the talking.
You do, but you've got to take that as a positive and make sure you go out there and make a name for yourself. Like Mikel wants to do, and I think he's already doing that as well.
Yeah, you take bits off, like in football, you take bits off managers that you might use later on in life, and as players, you go in and see older players and experienced players and take bits. We're taking bits off you, Kel, coming in the studio.
Stop it, making
so,
me
do you know what I mean? It's the way you do things. That's how you learn and get better.
It's so true, and I appreciate that. But anyone watching that is for young players, that is what you've all got to be working for as well. Final question off that, and Paul, because you said it as we were doing our pre-production meeting. Felt like we didn't really have to get out of second or third gear. Now, please tell me to shut up if not. Have we actually seen City get up in fourth or fifth gear really over this like winning run? And I'm playing devil's advocate, but I actually don't. I feel like we've still not seen this Pep side unleash its full potential on the squad. Would you agree or disagree?
I think until you've got Kevin De Bruyne in there, fully fit with the players around him, I don't think we will. But what I will say is that when we've needed to step up a gear, we did. You know, and I know I'll go back to the game at Anfield because I love talking about it.
Yeah.
But when Liverpool got to 1-1, we really took the game by the scruff of the neck. Whereas previous years against Liverpool, once they've sort of got ahead or got back in the game, we've sort of looked as if we were settling for it.
Yeah.
The hunger of the players to go ahead. And people from outside the club will always go back to the 2 Alisson mistakes. But the mistakes came because the pressure that we were put on them. Yeah. And we really stepped up a different gear then, and Liverpool couldn't handle it. We'd done the same in Everton game, second half, and Everton equalised. We'd done the same here against Tottenham. Yeah. You know, when the game was looking difficult, the players just stepped it up that next level. And a lot of the times in the 3 games, it was men against boys. And it's scary to think that there's still more to come.
Really, really is. There was one man as well we saw there just warming up, Raheem Sterling. He does start tonight. He's another player, Kev, I think over these last few games seems to have gone up a gear, taking it to a next level, being a bit more direct, going at players, which I think is great for us to see. And he seems to be a real key player now. Yeah,
look, he's a fantastic talent. Obviously come with quite a big fee from Liverpool. Come as a winger, and his goal contribution's massive for a wide man. I know he plays inside a little bit more now and has that freedom under Pep, but his stats are incredible, and he's not over the hill. Let's get this right. He's still young enough to score a lot more goals and play a lot more games. I'm looking forward to tonight, and I'm one of them that sort of sits the other side of the fence. We talk about the Champions League, and look, it's a trophy that the club want to win. Obviously, I get that, but that doesn't winning the Champions League doesn't tell me that this is a massive football club. I knew that already.
Yeah.
What they've achieved in recent years, when there was 32,000 in the third tier of English football, this club's massive. And I know they need the Champions League to sort of, I don't know, shut other people up from outside the football club. I'm quite relaxed with it. This team or this squad will win the Champions League one day, and hopefully it is this year.
Oh, okay, beautifully said. Thank you, sir. And we can take a quick look at this Sterling goal, because how much of this was, bad defending, Paul, and how much of it actually was Sterling's great run and actually, positioning in the box? Because, like you said, I think he said, is he 5'7.5" to be precise, and he leaped above those players.
He's quite a bit taller than Dicky, then.
That half makes a big difference, mate.
But I think we can bring it up here. But it was a hell of a header, yeah.
But it was the ball in from Mahrez, and being vertically challenged myself, I can really appreciate how he's got up. But it's not just the ball in's fantastic, the timing of the jump's great, but that's just sometimes is when you're not renowned for being a header of the ball, you just let it hit your head and hope for the best. But as he's up there, the timing's fantastic. He's guided that into the far top corner. He's knew exactly what he's doing there. Fantastic header.
Yeah, and that's that thing I'm going. There is a proper art to heading if you are good at it. I mean, I'm not a header, Kev, so I don't know it, but
yeah, I've scored a few headers in my time. I'll sort of just have a gamble and stick your head. Mine were normally a little bit lower on the floor in between boots, so I didn't want to use my right foot. But the pace was on the ball in that instance. It was a great ball in, so he just had to get connection and just use his neck muscles to help it on its way. It was pleasing on the eye to watch, wasn't it?
It really, really was. If you've just joined us, thank you for coming along to We're Not Really Here. Kel Spellman with you along with Paul Dickov and Kevin Horlock. We have got, let me a little time check, 19 minutes until we kick off our first leg in the last 16 fixture against Borussia Monchengladbach, and your first 11 looks like this. Ederson starts in net. We have a back four of Walker, Diaz, Laporte and Cancelo. In the middle, Rodri is partnered with, we think, Gundogan and Bernardo. He might rotate there with Phil Foden, who's back into the starting 11. Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus. On the bench, we have Zach Stefan, Scott Carson, John Stones, Sergio Aguero, Zinchenko, De Bruyne, Torres, Mendy, Fernandinho, Mahrez and Garcia, and finally Tommy Doyle. So we are, of course, facing German opponents in Borussia Mönchengladbach. As we know, the German style of football is kind of different to what we experience here in the UK. Maybe for those watching, just interested to, how would you best describe the differences, Paul? Do you think?
Well, I think a few years ago, everybody would always say about the German mentality, about them being very disciplined, very rigid in everything they do, and not changing from it now. I think the Bundesliga, especially over the last few years, they've looked to bring in a lot of youth from outside Germany. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've seen that with Dortmund with Haaland, with Sancho.
Yeah, Reyna's over there as well now.
Yeah, Jude Bellingham. Obviously, Bayern Munich are now bringing a lot of younger players through. Mm-hmm. You can see, obviously, saying he's not playing tonight, Thuram coming in. And if you look through a lot of the Bundesliga clubs, that's the model that they seem to be going to. Get them in younger, play them, to sell them on again. But they like playing counter-attacking football. There's not many teams up the top of Bundesliga, and Mönchengladbach are one of them, that the front two, front three aren't rapid with pace. So they look to keep possession, soak up pressure, and then hit teams with pace going forward.
I guess, and then off that as well, Paul, I guess, to say that we've gone for the youth now and I'm slightly more expansive, as they're, where they would always think Germans so solid as a team, they've slightly had to give up that solidness at the back. They've still got it, but it's given way slightly, possibly.
Yeah, I think football's evolved so much. I was lucky enough, or unlucky enough, to play German national team a number of times, and that's exactly how I would describe them. Very methodical, very organised, very strong, very structured. Mm-hmm. But football's moved on. Obviously, we've gone from real big, strong players that Germany always had to smaller players that can twist and turn, low centre of gravity, not just in Germany, across football in general. So football's moved on, and they've moved on with it, not to the extreme, but certainly moved.
Before we focus back in on Mönchengladbach, I wanted to ask you both, because it's hard not to look at the champions of the competition at the moment, Bayern Munich. Do you think, for you both, are they the team for us that we should be that we need to beat, really, if we're going to go all the way? Is it then we're I
think they're the benchmark for everybody, especially after what they've done last year. But look, going into the last 16, as we've seen already last week and this week, and then going into the last 8, there's going to be some top teams in there. But you probably say at the minute, if you do beat Bayern Munich, you're going to be within a great chance of winning it.
The other one maybe, and it actually was thrown into my PSG, who of course, great result for them in their first leg. They look like they've kind of hit in a bit of form in this competition as well.
Yeah, look, this competition is tough to win. Do I think it's the elite competition? No, I don't. I would look, and I might differ to a lot of people. I would prefer to win the Premier League over this all day long, but I know it's a trophy that this club wants to win. It's tough to win. You've got to have a little bit of luck along the way that we've seen. So yeah, whatever. For me, this team or this squad will win it one day. You'll have to have a little bit of the rubber, the green, and going on all 4 fronts is really difficult to win all 4. So there has to be a little bit of give somewhere. So I'm quite relaxed. I think they've got a good chance of winning it this season. I must admit, Manchester City. Would I put money on it? No, because I know there's a lot of other factors that come into it.
I think it's a great point Kev makes, and I think everybody at Manchester City wants to win the Premier League. I follow a lot of European football, and I look at PSG. So far they've saved their best performances for the Champions League. They lost to Monaco at home at the weekend, which would never have been thought of. Bayern Munich have lost their last 2 games in the Bundesliga, and they don't seem that bothered about it. But then they go to Lazio last night and bang 4 past them. So maybe them not saying they don't want to win their domestic league. I think the one for a lot of the teams in Europe is the Champions League, whereas, as Kev's saying, on all 4 fronts, we want to win the Premier League, we want to win everything. That could be the one little thing that goes against.
You talk about to win this tournament, I think there's 13 games to win it. You can actually lose. I won't mention a team, but it's a team that is in England. When they won it, they qualified for finishing 4th in the Premier League. Yeah, we're talking Champions League. They finished 4th.
Yeah, not forgetting the finalists that year as well were however many points behind City.
They went on to win the Champions League and lost 4 games on the way out, 13. It's a tough one. I'm Premier League all day long, but I do get it. I get it. Fans want everything, and I do. I'm the same, but.
I think as well, we were talking about, and I think a little bit of it is more for the fans. It's the one thing that seems to get thrown at us as fans is going, well, you've not done it in Europe, and it's kind of, there's a bigger picture, but it's that final piece.
But you know what will happen, Kel? If Manchester City, and hopefully they do go and win it this season, supporters of other clubs and etc. will just say, well, you've got to win it more than once before you're a big club. Like I said, and I probably didn't get it across well enough, this club's massive. It doesn't need a Champions League to stand up to that massive tag. Everyone knows it is, and it will win the Champions League. This club will win the Champions League eventually.
You heard it here first, Mr. Kevin Horlock. But to do that, we are going to have to put a few goals past Monchengladbach, who, as I said at the start of the show, we've come across them 4 times in the last 5 years. Usually been quite strong at home. We've struggled away. We've got to bring you some highlights from the fixture in 2015 when it was a 2-1 win to Manchester City. Pep kind of touched upon it, Paul. I mean, do these sort of things have any sway in when you play a team, a number of times over a few years, or is it a clean slate every single time?
I think it's got to be a clean slate, because the personnel changes that much. Form at the time is a big thing going into the games as well. But there'll be a few familiar places. I think there'll probably be a few more Monchengladbach players that will remember playing against Manchester City and the other way around. And I remember watching this game, Big Joe Harty there, the big man saving the penalty, and it was a really tough game. We rode our luck at times, and it just shows you what a good team that they were.
Really, really was. And here's something interesting. Other than that team we were speaking about, Liverpool, Monchengladbach across Europe are the next best team who won the most games against a Pep Guardiola side. So there must be something in their DNA, same with Liverpool's, that kind of works for them against a Guardiola side. Maybe that speed going up front, as you say.
Yeah, possibly. I look at it a slightly different. I think it's people coming up with these stats to try and unsteady Manchester City. They come up with these things to put doubt. For me, if Manchester City turn up and are in the moment and just play football without the outside influences and interruptions, they win this. They beat anybody in Europe. Yeah. So it's just the distractions, and people try and throw things in there just to add a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, indeed they do. Well, that was the away game. Of course, we were a lot more comfortable at home. This was from our 4-0 win in 2016 against Monchengladbach. Have a little ganders at these goals. There was some lovely goals on display, and a great Champions League performance this point.
Yeah, it was. I remember this. Sort of remember it, because it was the game that got cancelled the night before.
Yes.
With the waterlogged pitch, and I was here that night, got some lovely free hospitality, and then came back the next night and got even more hospitality again.
Probably hoping for it to be raining off again.
Absolutely, I can't remember half the goals, so I think I just stayed here for 24 hours. But that was a great performance. But I actually do remember, as much as the Monchengladbach fans that had stayed were absolutely amazing that night. You know, they were soaked the night before. And they made it a real fantastic atmosphere, especially when their team were getting beat 2-3-4.
Well, they're third in the drinking charts anyway, so they probably had a good night themselves.
They're doing all right. There was a great little line there from our comment from Alistair Mann. That was Gundogan's debut. I mean, you think that was kind of where it started, and where is that now? It's just we're all the happier.
Yeah,
for
am I right
it.
in saying? I think I heard you talking before. He had to wait a little while for his debut, being injured and that. But yeah, he wasn't Mr. Whippy right then, but he is now.
Well, of course, we're going to be hoping for lots of goals like these we're seeing now as we take on Monchengladbach. Of course, we're away. We're not in Germany tonight. We will be over in Budapest, and then we'll be welcoming back home Leroy Sané as well, of course, doing what he does best. Actually saw a similar goal assist to this last night for Bayern Munich, so we'll say that we taught him everything he knows. Wnrh as well, of course. Another familiar name, helped us win the league, I think, at one point last season. Are we allowed to say that? Probably not. So we'll move on swiftly.
You just have.
I'll say it and then I'll deal with it afterwards on this show. Now, as we know, there has been some light at the end of the tunnel. We are seeing some easing of restrictions here in the UK, and it's looking like we're hopefully might be welcoming fans back into the stadium in the not-so-distant future. And you're probably thinking, well, about time, because I've watched everything I have done on Netflix. I've digged into Amazon Prime. But I will say to this, have you digged into ManchesterCity.com? Because if you haven't, well worth your time. I've spent many an hour down the ManchesterCity.com rabbit hole. There is so much you can get your eyes and ears around, from our EDS team to our women's team to just looking around the club. You've also got City TV. It's well worth your time. So if you are thinking, I don't know what I can be doing, spending a couple of hours doing, go check out mancity.com.
Paul Schiller, the Austrian referee, leads out the two teams for this Cup Winners' Cup final. As stays low, 2-1. The Cup Winners' Cup has gone to Main Road.
How do you feel having signed this new contract?
Was so satisfied and grateful for the confidence for our club.
I think the most important thing to say is that I love to win, and that's the thing you most need to know about me.
In the 93rd minute, what a brilliant goal from Caroline Weir! It might be turned in, and it is! Will that be the winner? The final whistle blows. Finally, Manchester City overcome their final blues.
All the mood of the environment in the backroom staff, the players, is exceptional this season.
To Delap, that seals it. Liam Delap gets his goal, firing into the top corner.
The last 2-3 days could not training, then today's training and going to decide tomorrow.
Won it back again, City. Stanway hits it. Oh, it's in! Beautiful goal. City have been threatening that for some time. Oh, he's hit the post, and De Bruyne, and that's 3! City 3, Chelsea 0. What an afternoon! Breathtaking. The afternoon ends in style.
Didn't want to put on a We're Not Really Here trailer though, did they? Well, where was that? You can also get this brilliant show on mancity.com as well, I'll have you know. Well worth checking out. And I can actually, speaking of our young players around Manchester City, our under-18s are currently 4-1 up against Wolves with 10 minutes to go. So looking like we've secured the 3 points there. So fingers crossed, congratulations to those boys. Now, gentlemen, as we dig into the vault, if I was to say Bootham Crescent on 19th of December, 1998, what sort of feelings does that evoke for you both?
I'm off anyway. Not seeing
Says it all. What? You made the lights go there as well, fuming. But slightly different to tonight's last 16 tie.
Just a touch. Just a touch. Yeah, and it's weird. People don't often talk about Bootham Crescent, and I don't have much recollection of it.
I wonder why.
People talk about the Wrexham game that happened after. But yeah, the lowest point.
Yeah.
The club was out.
Did you feel it as players at that time?
I was suspended. It was nothing to do with me.
That was why. Straight out. But you know that, like you say now, it's look back on at that point. But I mean, was you feeling that as a squad of players?
I remember watching the score coming in, listening to it in the radio, and just thinking, oh dear, sort of where are we going to go from here? So we dropped to 12th, I think it was.
Yeah.
which was the lowest point in the club's history in year.
We definitely felt it as a squad.
Yeah.
We had some good players really for that division, and we shouldn't have been in that position. And you end up losing games, and you're the big fish in a small pond, and it just seemed like it went on forever, and you felt it. I certainly did as a player. I felt that we was in a hole, and you start questioning yourself and thinking, how the hell are we going to get out of this?
Yeah, well, thankfully you did. And we've actually got there's a great little episode on City TV that digs into all of this. We can bring you a little trailer now for you to watch, but it is so good, well worth your time.
Ball aimed for Cresswell. This is the highly talented youngster a number of Premiership clubs are watching. Gets in a good cross. Goes to Connolly. The former Stockport player has scored for the Yorkshireman.
York City away, December the 19th, 1998.
York away will bring a weary smile nowadays to City fans of a certain age.
And I know the Man City fans now look back at that, Riley, as the worst time in your club's history, and probably rightly so.
The lowest of the low. It is the moment where we really were at our lowest.
It's just another game, Paul. We got to that point, it was just another game. It was another away day of fun. That's what it had become, fun.
There's that dark humour around that period, and there's a fondness and there's a warmth from that time. I think you always, through hardship and adversity, it creates incredible strength, and it doesn't get any worse than that, especially for a club the size of Manchester City.
They talk about the York game being the turning point of the low point, and the Wrexham game on Boxing Day was the revival, if you want to call it. So Christmas was ruined, but the New Year was slightly better.
Dad just reminded me as well, second mention for him tonight, that was actually on his birthday, the 19th of December, so he says, lovely
Happy birthday.
Okay, just under 5 minutes till kick-off, so we can quickly squeeze in Guess the Blue. So, of course, we're asking you to choose your favourite German. We're also asking you to work out, who is this? Now, I struggled here, but in the studio, you two seem to have it nailed straight away.
I'm torn between two now. I've looked at it again, I think.
But you're sticking with the name that you thought.
Yeah.
All right, okay. We've got two guests here in the studio, so whatever yours is, hashtag WNRH, send them in. We'll look at them at half-time and full-time. Okay, just before you go get a brew ahead of the game, let's get predictions from our guests in the studio. Paul Dickov, I'm going to come to you first. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go 3-1 Manchester City.
3-1.
Would love it to be 3-0, but I'll take 3-1.
Lovely stuff. What about you, Kev?
You wouldn't want it to be 3-0 more than me, because that's what I'm going to say.
Hey,
3-0.
3-0.
3-0. I'm going to give you a goal score as well.
Go on.
Gabby.
Yep.
Phil.
Yep.
And Bernardo.
Now, if that comes in, sensational. Come join us at half-time and full-time, and we'll be getting into all the action in our game against Monchengladbach. Get yourself a brew. We'll see you at half-time.